Hello, and thank you for watching this ag forecast for the Corn Belt. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. We'll start with the satellite picture here on Tuesday morning. You can see your cold front, the one that brought the showers to the eastern Corn Belt yesterday and cooler air to the region overnight, is making its way off into the northeast. We've got some clouds and a couple of light showers making their way through parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Iowa this morning, but very little in the way of measurable precipitation expected along with that one as we head through the rest of the day. Generally dry conditions expected across the Corn Belt. Now here's that cooler air that moved in overnight. We saw some areas along the Illinois-Indiana border dropping into the mid-30s overnight, mid-50s as you make your way back across Minnesota down into Kansas, but then again 30s and 40s across parts of the northern plains. So you look at the last 72 hours of precipitation, we saw some heavier rain with some thunderstorms across parts of Minnesota down into the Nebraska-Iowa border on Sunday afternoon and evening. And then yesterday along the front, just looking at some light shower activity spreading from parts of Illinois across the rest of the eastern Corn Belt, a couple thunderstorms across parts of Wisconsin, Lake Michigan, moving into lower Michigan during the afternoon and evening hours yesterday as well. But across the eastern Corn Belt, generally hit or miss light precipitation, rather disappointing at the end of the day. Now, over the next 5 days, we're going to keep rather dry conditions in place across the Corn Belt. We'll see a system sneak through Wednesday night into Thursday. It's going to bring a chance for some slightly higher chances for some measurable rainfall, around a half an inch to the U.S.-Canadian border. Just the opportunity for some very light showers on Thursday across parts of the eastern Corn Belt. But as we transition into early next week, we're looking at days 6 through 10 over on the right. We have to talk about the potential for one or more stronger systems bringing some more organized rainfall into parts of the central U.S. as we, again, get into next week. Now, the reason that happens is not a big pattern change. It's just a slight change in the alignment of our upper level pattern. So we keep the big trough anchored in across west central Canada down into the Great Lakes. Over the next 5 days, though, the trough is oriented from northwest to southeast. That keeps the transport of cool, dry air on from the Canadian Prairie down into the Midwest, shutting down the Gulf of Mexico, not allowing access for that northward transport of deep Gulf moisture. So cool, dry, windy, that's the pattern over the next 3 to 5 days across the Corn Belt. As we transition to the other side of the weekend into early next week, now we're looking at a northeast to southwest orientation of that trough. So some of these systems are deepening now across the Rockies, across the Central Plains. That's a much different look, even with a slight pivot in the trough there, just keeping the same general ridge west, trough central, ridge east pattern, just changing the alignment of that trough. A very different situation then. Now we can develop storm systems across the midsection of the country. We can tap into the Gulf of Mexico. And that's why as we head into next week, we have to watch for the potential for some much more organized precipitation across the midsection of the country. Now, over the next few days, again, keeping it pretty quiet, we'll see the system you're watching it right now cut across the screen Wednesday night into Thursday. That's going to bring a better chance for some rainfall across the U.S.-Canada border into the northern Great Lakes, and then just the chance for some light showers across the eastern Corn Belt. Let's time that out one more time for you. We'll bring it back to today. Cold front number 1 making its way across the northeast, watching for the chance for a couple of light showers across the Great Lakes as we head through the rest of the day today. This takes us into midday Tuesday, now Tuesday evening, and then getting into the overnight. Now, as we get into the day tomorrow, we'll start to watch for some light rain spreading across the Dakotas into the northern Great Lakes, and then we'll watch this system continue to make its way through here as we get into Wednesday night. As we get into sunset on Wednesday, into midnight on Wednesday, and then now transitioning into Thursday, we'll watch this cold front swing through the eastern Corn Belt. That's what brings the chance for some light showers to parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio during the day on Thursday. Now, with all of that, here's the total precipitation forecast between now and 1 p.m. on Thursday. And again, the best chance for a half an inch or so of rain is going to be found well off to the north toward the Canadian border, or at least across the north woods of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and off into the UP of Michigan. And then just the chance for a couple of, top layer of soil wetting showers to make their way through parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. This is not going to be a significant rainfall producer. Now, the winds are going to be the bigger story here. We're not talking about a lot in the way of precipitation, but behind each of these cold fronts, very strong winds. So let's take it back. Let's look at just the next couple of days because there's plenty to talk about within there. As we head through the afternoon and evening hours today, we'll watch for an area of stronger winds coming in on the backside of this little trough sneaking through the north. So west-northwesterly winds gusting 20 to 30 miles per hour across the northern plains into the Great Lakes today. Tomorrow is the big one, though. We see this system sneaking through across the U.S.-Canadian border. On the backside, we're going to see some very strong surface winds out of the west-northwest blowing in from Montana across the northern plains and eventually into the central and southern plains, gusting behind gusting behind the cold front 40 to 60 miles per hour at times. So we'll have to talk about a fire weather risk in some areas. We're looking at an elevated risk across parts of the Colorado Front Range today into the central Rockies. But then tomorrow, the map on the right, we expand that into much more of the Central Plains, looking at parts of South Dakota, down across Nebraska and Kansas, and then a heightened risk across parts of the Panhandle as well, again, with some of the strong winds and the dry conditions. Now, over the next 5 days, or really over the next 10 days, as a whole, we'll keep this pattern where we've got the ridge in the west, and then the trough kind of anchored in right in this region. So we're going to be swinging systems around the base of that trough from the northern plains or from the Canadian Prairie through the northern plains into the Midwest. So I'll hit play on that. You can see these systems just being kind of slingshot around the base of that trough. But as we get into next week, we're going to get a bit of a change with the alignment there, where some of these systems are able to dig in and deepen across the western half of the country, across the Rockies. That is, again, a very different pattern. We're not just bringing in dry air from Canada. We're allowing these systems to deepen across the central U.S., so we're developing, mid-latitude cyclones, classic areas of low pressure with cyclonic flow around that, tapping into the Gulf of Mexico. So again, details with an amplified pattern into the 7 to 10 day time frame. Sketchy at best, but this is a change in the overall pattern that I've been showing you over the last 4 to 6 weeks. You can see the current pattern here, big sweeping cold fronts making their way to the Gulf, shutting down the deep moisture transport. But did you see the change? Did you see what I've been saying that we're not seeing happening here over the last 4 to 6 weeks, finally occurring right here? What happens as we switch the alignment with that trough, we start deepening an area of low pressure across the central plains. Well, hey, now we've got warm moisture transport from the Gulf of Mexico making its way into the central U.S., tapping into some of these storm systems. So again, detail sketchy at best, but the pattern change as a whole is starting to become more reliable with some of our ensemble support as well. So here's a quick look at the precipitation forecast, just raw output from the European deterministic model overnight. Again, we go through a relatively dry day today. Tomorrow, a chance for some rain across the northern plains into the far northern Great Lakes. Thursday, a chance for some showers across the eastern Corn Belt. Cooler air coming in on the backside there. Windy conditions coming in on the backside as well. We'll keep it rather dry then as we head through Friday into early Saturday, but then we get another system coming through, bringing some chances for some moisture across, again, the northern plains and the Great Lakes as we head through Saturday into Saturday night. Potential for some snow across the U.S. and Canadian border as well. A chance for some of that accumulating across North Dakota and northern Minnesota as well. Cooler air continues to filter in on the backside, and now we're starting to get that change in the alignment, the potential for some western U.S. troughing as we head into early next week. This is getting into Monday night into Tuesday morning. And then the European wants to develop another one here as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. We'll just talk about this as we go through the rest of the week. But again, ensemble support starting to develop. We're looking at the probability of picking up half an inch of rainfall or more over the next 5 days. So days 0 through 5 and then days 6 through 10 over here on the right. And again, keeping it dry unless you head off toward the U.S.-Canadian border or the far northern Great Lakes, where you can get a chance for a half an inch of rainfall with our system tomorrow, and then the one that comes through here Saturday. But then as we get into next week, starting to look for the potential for some central U.S. storm systems, bringing heavier, more organized rain and thunderstorm activity to parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. Of course, we're talking about a lot of cold air. We're talking about the potential for snow. The rumors are flying. We'll stick with the ensembles right now because, again, details, these snow maps, they're going to be of no use to you at this point because they're going to be changing every 6 hours that we get a new run. What I can tell you right now is we're looking at the probability of picking up an inch or more of snowfall over the next 10 days, understanding that a lot of this occurring in the day 5 through 10 time frame and not over the next 5 days. But you're looking for the orange and the red shading there. That's where you're getting north of 50%, 60 to 80% chance of picking up an inch or more of snowfall. And right now you kind of see it along and northwest of that line, parts of the Dakotas, down into Nebraska, even parts of Iowa, as far south as Iowa and central Wisconsin, potentially talking about accumulating snow. My mouth doesn't even want to utter the words at this point as we head into next week. Between now and then, though, we do have a couple of beautiful days. 70s for a lot of folks today, 70s and 80s for even more of us tomorrow, colder across the northern plains. That's the end of it, though. Check out the highs across this region tomorrow. 70s, 80s, and 90s, down to the 50s and 60s on Thursday. Cooler air lingers into the weekend, and then the potential for the pattern change as we head into next week with much more active weather and the chance for some organized precipitation across the central U.S.